I'm Maria, and this week I read the article How Schools Place Smear the Queer by Lisa W. Lautzenheiser. I think that's how you say her name. Anyway, the article talks first about what Smear the Queer was, and it's basically a game where in elementary schools, and specifically her elementary school, kids would run around passing a big red ball to other kids until someone, or I think a group of them, might have yelled "Smear the Queer," and when they yelled that, whoever had the ball would be jumped on, and like kind of all the other kids would just pile on top of them. And she kind of talked about how the kids that usually got piled on were the small and weaker kids. So basically, this game was just a way to bully the weaker kids, which was terrible, I thought. And then she talked about like how when new people would go to refute this game and talking about like how it's just offensive to the gay and lesbian and bisexual community, um, the teachers and officials would kind of just be like, that's a religious thing, so we can't really talk about it. And when you kind of just ignore those things, by fearing the subject to even talk about, we kind of just are allowing homophobic slurs to be talked about throughout the school and become normal over the years, which then can lead to all the problems, such as greater number of suicides among the gay and lesbian community than their heterosexual peers, and also a greater amount of alcohol and drug abuse among them. And then she kind of also talked about heterosexism, which I didn't even know was a thing until I read this article. And it's assuming everyone is straight, which is what it is. And then she said this is also damaging because by assuming everyone is straight and saying things like, oh, send this home to your mom and dad, or pairing two kids up, a boy and a girl up for like a Valentine's kind of activity. And if the kid doesn't have a mom and a dad, if they have two dads, or if it's a little boy and he wants to be paired up with another little boy for the Valentine's thing, it's kind of by us assuming that that's not the right thing to do, it's showing them that they're not normal, which is almost just putting them down in a way. Um, and by not acknowledging the sexuality issues around these kind of schools, we're just accepting homophobia in our schools. She then goes on and talks about by ignoring all these details of sexuality in schools, we're always going to have these kids that are gay and lesbian and bisexual put at the bottom of the pile, relating back to the Smear the Queer game, where we just, or where others are just piling and piling on top of them until their schooling experience becomes dangerous and unenjoyable for them, which then can affect their schoolwork and their future, which, of course, as a teacher, we don't want that. Um, and schools often, when have issues like this, will just focus on the one kid instead of the greater issue. So she specifically talked about one of her past students that was getting bullied so much because he was perceived as a gay boy. And so he eventually felt like he was in so much danger that he brought a stun gun to school. And of course, he got expelled for having a stun gun, but they didn't do anything about the bullying problem. So they just took care of a one student issue, but not the root of that issue, which can just lead to more issues in the future. She kind of talks about that kids won't feel comfortable, like gay and lesbian and bisexual, the community doesn't feel comfortable talking about their sex with anyone because it's so looked down upon in some ways. And because they can't ask questions about sex, their community has a higher HIV rate, which then can affect everyone around them. And so education shouldn't just be allowed for gay and lesbian and others, it should be allowed for everyone. Everyone should be able to be educated. Because just because someone isn't gay, that they could have a father or mother or sibling, aunt, uncle, or someone who's dealing with this, and they need to be able to talk to. They should have a comfortable community so they can talk about it also. She ends the article with talking about ways to fix these issues within the schools. So she talks about teachers should be teaching if they want to be. Like, you should hire teachers that want to be teaching about sexuality and want to deal with these issues. Otherwise, they're gonna just hand down the not not want to do it down to their students who would just carry it out. Talks about how to prepare the students, like talking about having discussions about stereotypes of gay and lesbian and bisexual people, and then talk about how it's wrong, and just kind of like get them ready for the thing that they're about to learn about. Um, and the last thing that I liked the most was that she said they should have teachers go to seminars and get more informed and educated about the subject before they teach, which I really liked, because when I did my first Bridging the Gap assignment, I went to an LGBT meeting and I didn't feel educated, educated enough. And that was my biggest fear, that I was going to say something wrong, or I didn't know enough. And it kind of stopped me from being as involved or have as deep conversations as I should have been. So that's really the end of the article, the basis of it. I actually really enjoyed this article. I thought it was really eye-opening. And I really think that everyone should read it, especially being teachers. So thank you.